For anyone who's keeping up with the current state of guitar, you may have heard of the artist Mk.Gee, and particularly his tone. Now, not for many years have I seen such a global guitar tone hunt, but that's exactly what Mk.Gee has done through his own solo work and with work with other artists, such as recently Justin Bieber. Mk.Gee's got this very recognisable guitar tone, which is this almost kind of lo-fi bedroom poppy sort of sound with like this really quite like unique distortion to it. And that is due to one piece of gear. It is the Tascam Porta Studio 424, which he actually uses as an amplifier. What we're going to be talking about today is the brand new JHS 424 gain stage. Now, what this pedal is doing, it is recreating the sound of that Porta Studio, because certainly since Mk.Gee's rise to fame, those have been going a bit crazy on the second-hand market. So there is now a pedal that does that. Now, what is that sound, you may be asking? I'll let you hear it right now. So where the Porta Studio's sound comes from is basically by diming the preamp on it there. That's exactly what the 424 gain stage is doing. The layout of it is very similar to what you would see on the Tascam. To kind of go through some of the controls here, it's very easy on the top, but you may notice that there's two gains on it. Essentially what it is gain 1 is known as the trim, which is basically just the actual gain of the channel, which means if you dime that back a little bit, or dime the volume just back a little bit, raise the gain on there, you're gonna it's almost this kind of like fuzzy, like really blown out sort of like console sound, which I think is really unique. But where a lot of that comes in is if you kind of just trim that just off the top end there, just that little bit, you're able to control that with your dynamics. So you play soft, and you can kind of dig in just a little bit because Mk.Gee does use his fingers to play, which allows you a little bit more control. One of the key elements as well being a baritone guitar, which I've pulled out today, and you'll hear that full range in some other song examples that I'm going to show off. So if gain 1 is acting as like the actual input gain, what gain 2 is basically like a channel fader there. So you can kind of sculpt like basically 2 stages of gain on it. If we want to go all the way at the top there, you'll hear that give like kind of just a bit of a fuzzy noise there as well. No really use for subtlety there, but you can essentially like dime that back just that little bit. Or pull your input gain down and then raise like the channel fader there to keep it nice and clean. Now I've been incorporating the master volume with that as well, because that's quite important. As you obviously like raise the gain of that, the pedal is going to get louder, so you'll need to kind of do a little bit of a balancing act with that. And also the pedal comes with the EQ controls for treble and bass. They work very similar to kind of, you know, like classic recording console, that if you push it up a little bit, it's going to boost the treble. And the same with the bass as well there. If you are going to have it basically like right in the center there is flat, you can either cut or boost the EQ with that, which is great depending on what kind of guitar you're using. By cutting the EQ or boosting it there as well, you can get a bit closer to those sounds like you would get on his song Candy. Now Mk.Gee's tone, of course, doesn't exclusively consist of the Tascam. There's a little bit more that goes into that, including what I've kind of built this kind of mini rig here with. I've had the phaser on for most of the examples. Really, really subtle. It's just creating a little bit of movement. And I've also, because we're going straight into a desk with this, there is two outputs to it. So output one at the top here, which is just a traditional guitar output there, that would go into an amp if you wanted to use this as like a distortion pedal. But I've been going out of the balanced output directly into a mixing desk, kind of very similar to the way that it would be used live. And I've just got a tiny little bit of reverb just on that desk there as well. But one of the key things for Mk.Gee's sound is also he uses one of those old Boss synthesizer pedals with a little pickup that goes on there. That with the baritone sounds absolutely awesome. I've went for the bit of an easier option today, which is the Boss SY-1. You can hear that on songs such as Dream Police, which I'll play for you right now. Now, one of those sounds that you will hear in that song is that just like big crash that he does with the open strings, and obviously that's just like using your dynamics, boosting the pedal a lot there, and then you're just on these like really dramatic bits just to hit like a big... It's like, it's really, you know, catch you off guard occasionally, which is just one of those things that I really like, and you'll hear that without the synthesizer pedal there as well. Now, one of the key pieces of gear that he does use is the Ranger Effects reverb, which unfortunately I don't have here, and that's got this kind of like gated kind of ducking style reverb that also adds distortion to it, which, you know, that's a key piece for that. But I do think that the 424 gain stage does a really good job of emulating, you know, that big just dramatic sound. I've also decided to include the MXR Rockman X-100 here as well, because he did actually release a song called Rockman. So let's see how these two work together in tandem. Not as close as the record, but obviously he's got some kind of studio magic going on as well. What I actually really like about adding the Rockman in with that is the chorus, and especially when you are playing with the synth here. Now that can get just that little bit noisy too, you know, we're kind of just running all these effects. Kind of, you know, this is an amp in itself, that's an amp in itself. You're going to kind of experience a little bit of that like fuzziness at the background there. Super cool sound there as well, but if we're looking at maybe the most modern release, it was his collaboration with Justin Bieber on the song Daisies. Now that's like super low key, there's not really much kind of going on with it. I think it really does kind of like shine that example on the tone there, which is just this like pretty low key, almost like, you know, just DI tone, which essentially this is. So let me kind of try and dial that in just that little bit. It's a little bit kind of pushed up just there as well, but we still want to have that clean tone coming through. I'm going to cut the treble a little bit as well. Let's see how close we get. So yeah, that was just a very quick rundown of the JHS pedals 424 gain stage there. What I really like about this is the fact that like we have this modern artist such as Mk.Gee, and JHS have decided to release this pedal for people who are hunting down that tone, maybe seeing those Porta Studios for going for way too much money on eBay, and have went, look, you can get this on your pedal board, you can get this in your house, and it has things like, you know, plugging it straight directly into guitar amp, going directly into an interface or a mixer or something like that, while still having the flexibility, you know, to travel around with it, which is awesome. And particularly what I love about it is, you know, the fact that they have just like, they're keeping modern, you know, guitar is consistently evolving, and as cool as valve amps are and stuff like that, sometimes a new sound comes along that really just kind of sparks imagination. I mean, for all the folk out there that maybe don't agree with it and want to go more old school, your favourite guitarist Eric Clapton has given Mk.Gee the tip of the hat as well, which I think is absolutely awesome, comparing him to an artist such as Prince. But that's just been a very quick rundown of the 424 gain stage. Let me know what you think about it down in the comments below, and while you're there, give us a like and a subscribe to keep up with all the latest news at Guitar HQ. But until next time, I've been Kieran, and we've just been checking out the JHS Pedals 424 gain stage pedal. Have a great day.